Hello, everybody. We are live. It is Tuesday. We're on Free Hugs and Spanks because our new method is Tuesdays, Free Hugs and Spanks. And then potentially Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Free Hugs and Spanks. Kink Advocate gets Monday, Wednesday. And then basically anything else in the rotation we might want to give it. Occasionally it might get Thursdays, but we're going to leave Freaky Friday, Fetish Friday. The only reason Freaky Friday's in my head is Freaky Friday 2, I think actually comes out this Friday. Echo live on. Bam. Here we go. Let's go. Oh man, a little tired, a little late today. Probably won't be on terribly long, but let's go. We're going to make a video or two while we're live, as a matter of fact. So bear with us. Got some exciting news. We're going to steal this plug. Hopefully it's been there for a while, long enough now. Why is this not? There it goes. I think the cord's breaking. That'd be my kiddo. Okay, let's get to it. Make sure we're right in screen. I got some exciting news for everybody. There we go. This goes out to you, those of you in Audible. Sup, Sage? Come on board if you'd want to talk. We got a lot of reviews going on today. This is not a review. This is before. Maybe some of you know this name. Maybe some of you don't. Jay Wiseman. Met this person in New York at a point. This is someone I actually learned stuff from early on. It was a lot of reading from FetLife to other places, and got to sit in on one of their classes in New York, if I'm not mistaken, very long ago. Released a book in 2021. I was shocked it took them that long. Didn't realize how much they had been behind the scenes and how much we just knew them. But here's the exciting point. So if you're on Audible, this book is actually free until August 28th. You have to be part of the Audible program where you get to be part of the Audible library. And yeah, this is a pretty cool thing. You can actually get this book on Audible for free. Gives you 2 weeks to read it if you're an Audible subscriber. That just means that you get to get the podcast and all that. I wanted to give everyone the heads up. I got to go. There's someone coming onto my show so I can teach some of the things I learned from this person. I am about a quarter in and I'm digging it. But there are things I don't like, which is an interesting topic for tonight, where education comes from. So let's get our guest on the show and get to that in a live. You should be following us. We're on YouTube and TikTok. Free Hugs and Spanks, Kink Advocate, and Kink Educator. See you there. All right, let's bring Sage. Know this name. Maybe some of you don't. Jay Wiseman. Met this person in New York at a point. This is someone I don't know if my volume's up. There it is.
Hello.
Do you know who Jay Wiseman is?
I do not, actually.
Hold on one second. Jay Wiseman's book is free through August 26th on Audible. Okay. I wanted to get it out there. I figured this out today. So I was given some books to read recently in Kink, and I dived in, becoming, being the educator, challenging myself as always. And oh boy, was one of them really bad, Sage.
Oh, no.
One of them was...
There's always that one.
Real bad. Like, if
How
I,
bad we talking?
like all the issues I've had with TikTok, I feel like this person was part of them, because it's the same crap, the same dumb stuff, bad links. Use the site, and because I remember there's a person, and I always forget their name, but we get masochism from a human being's last name. It's like M-A-S-H-O-T, mascot, an Austrian, and the things that they did with their partner. Now, I did remember, and I had to go check myself on this, because they gave a reference, like they had a receipt to a website. And when you look up the websites, like ratings, it says, oh, well, they like satirical. They're not really great with facts. They're really not giving any source material. So you go look at it, and they talk about this person writing a contract. Now, I have done enough with contracts and arguing with contracts that I damn sure know this person did not call this a contract, but they listed it as a contract. And it was completely just misquoted. I believe it was from a different language, and they added in their own words as a reference material. So this woman puts it in there and says contracts started in like 1864. Now, there is an argument that this is the first time someone actually kind of builds a framework for that, but we can't tell if they were the first person ever. This is just the first time we have it because they were an author and published it. My assumption is that this was passed on because, as I've often said, we are a tribal nation when it comes to, and I don't know if nation is insensitive. I'm sorry if it is. I'm still trying. I keep watching the TikToks to see what words were not. I don't mean any disrespect, but I mean kink is like a tribal nation, and I hope that's not offensive, where our history is oral. We tell it at the campfire, and now that campfire is the internet. And I'm listening to Jay Wiseman, and he just published this 4 years ago, and I'm like, damn, like, there's some things they say that I don't like. There was something about BDSM is sex. And I was like, the fuck? This is why I'm dealing with this online. When did BDSM become just sex? And you ever read The Ethical Slut?
I don't think I've read it personally. I think I've heard a lot about it.
Good book. Great, actually. They did another book called Bottoming and another book called Topping. Now, in 2015, I believe they redid both books. And I've read the updated, not the earlier versions. But going by the updated versions, I had issues with the Bottoming book. And it really was the over-sexualization of kink. They talk about contracts in a positive way and a few other things. But overall, it's probably a good thing because my issue is philosophy-driven as opposed to factual problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's things that I can be like, not really what I want, but okay. I get it. They're coming from the side of the street that's all about the sex, and I'm not. And one of the things I figured out, and I love listening to other creators talk about kink, because I understand it in a way that I've studied it for so long. But it is when people word things differently than me and bring it up in a different way, does it inspire my mind to almost have the debate answer back, which I then use later to make more content, more videos to better explain myself. Like, how do I teach? I'm a centrist of kink, meaning I'm not leaning more to SM. I'm not leaning more to leather. I'm not leaning more to age play. I keep us in the center where consent lives. And that's exactly what our channels are about, consent.
Absolutely.
And building from there. And I don't know if me and you have had this talk, because you've been trained, learned. I don't know. I don't want to put trained out there. You have been coming up in the more recent time frame. And I forgot about this. It came rushing back to my brain. There's been something about limits that's been bothering me for about a couple of years now. And I'm like, I could not remember it until it just came to me. And it was like a flash of brilliance. So limits were never meant to be boundaries. And I don't know if you know what I mean by that.
I feel like I kind of get where you're going, but I would like for you to explain exactly what you mean so we avoid any miscommunication.
So when I was coming up, limits were these things that you would tell your dom, your top, and they would work with you to test those limits. They would chase the limits. It used to be called safe word. I think the term was chasing to the safe word, running to the safe word. And back then we didn't have anything but literal safe words. We weren't using the color system back then. I'm talking like late 90s, early 2000s at this point.
Yeah.
And it was limits were meant to be adjustable. What is your maximum limit? Okay, cool. And then you would try to help someone expand beyond it. Limits that's where we get soft and hard limits from. They were never meant to be exclusionary items. We weren't supposed to say, well, tickling's a hard limit. That's the misuse. It was meant to be a gauge. So in other words, if you were doing sensation play, for example, well, I like ice, I like this, a hard limit in sensation play because now it's a scale. would be tickling, would be one of my hard limits in this, because now you're basing it off of a sensation play as opposed to making a boundary. And what we're teaching now is I want everyone to look at it as a boundary as like a cage, like a literal boundary cage around you and your partner. Only you get to invite things in it. And inside there, your partner who is submissive is allowed to cage and lock away items. And only they can unlock those items through negotiation of when and where they can unload it. This is a kink philosophy. So for those who are more advanced in a play scene and aren't new, they might want to store something like an implement when they're nice and warmed up and feeling in the mood to feel a lot of pain. They can unlock that even for just the evening and then lock it back up. But everything in that boundary is allowed, and anything not in the boundary is not allowed. And this is so much of a simpler way to kind of teach it, because you can just look at it. If you don't understand the boundary perfectly, here's a simple thing. Think of a champagne glass. You put everything in the champagne glass, right? Everything goes in that champagne glass. Anything not put in the champagne glass, that boundary of the limb of the champagne cup, is not allowed. Don't fucking do it. It's that simple. And submissives who are locking things away in the boundaries mean it's negotiated, but only when they release it, and they get to decide when they release it. And the top is not allowed to ask for it to be uncaged. That would be consent, a breach of trust, and even potentially consent and negotiation. So coming up with new ideas how to streamline it. But listening to all these other educators, some of them talk very badly. Some of them say things that are so close, because Sage, we've been on here and we kind of come up with things as we go and suddenly have that epiphany moment. Well, what if we did this? What if we just moved this? What if we tweaked this? And I think that's where our kinky language is heading right now, into a better future. Because some of these things just don't work. They don't work in the modern time. And we have to talk about getting rid of slave. Slave is one of those things I would like to see disappear within the next 5 years, if possible. Because it's offensive. It is offensive to American history, offensive to people. And I know this is going to sound hypocritical, but master I don't believe is, because the wide range of how master was used, even before it was used in the South.
No, absolutely. And I definitely agree. I definitely think there's a conversation that the community as a whole needs to truly have, because, not even within this space, but in spaces outside of here, I've heard the talk about, negating and removing the term slave within the community, as a whole. And this is something I've heard people talking about since I first became more public in the scene about 2 years ago. And I have to agree, not even just on the basis of it being offensive, because it is an offensive term, and especially given for our context of the country we live in, our country's history, it's not a term that needs to be used loosely in general, especially within a space like this. And that's why I definitely feel it's a term that just needs to be removed. But even just outside of that, we've talked before, and more recently, we've talked a lot about how the terms we use can lead people to have certain assumptions about dynamics, whether it be other people's dynamics or our own. With that, we talked about how using the term contract over treaty implies an inability to withdraw consent. I believe this concept also applies to the term or role of slave.
Mm-hmm.
It implies that this person is not acting of their own free will, that there's something keeping them bound to a person that is not of their own accord. Because that is the definition of slave, mind you, is an individual being forced into subjugation without their consent or without their own appeal or word being listened to. That is what that is. So when we use a term like that, especially in the context in which we do within kink, it creates it doesn't create, because we talk about there being power dynamics. And that's an understandable thing within our community because of the things we do. But it creates a dangerous power dynamic where you might have somebody who's new to the scene who hears the word slave and goes, oh, I can't say no. I can't back out. I can't leave. So there definitely needs to be a shift in how we talk about that or the terms that we choose to use. There needs to be a removal of any terminology that suggests that a person is not acting of their own free will.
Absolutely. And our goal should be able to have, and I don't care if everyone doesn't want to come out, but we should be able to come out. Jay Wiseman, writing the book that I'm reading, it's SM 101, by the way. If you guys did not hear, it's free on Audible right now. If you're part of the Audible program, you can get this for free. It's crazy. Take advantage until August 26th. I'm a quarter through the book at this point. Can't wait to finish it. And it's a great point you're bringing up, Sage. You know, people have to get over putting fantasy over safeguarding this lifestyle. Oh, but I like the fantasy. I like the fact that I just don't have a choice. Well, get to like servant. How about that? How about you just get to like the word servant? Just like contract, it goes back to it. If we keep saying contract and people keep getting hurt, then we're complicit. It doesn't go anywhere else but that. We're complicit. And I agree with Sage. It's time to stop being complicit. It's time to not be inviting. I mean, really, like, I want one of you white people to go into a BDSM dungeon when it's a POC night. If you don't know what POC is, I feel bad for you. And say slave a bunch of times and see how it makes people feel. Even if you're allowed to because of our lifestyle, it is an insensitive term. I can give you a whole bunch of other insensitive terms, like when people wear Nazi Nazi props, whatever it is, costumes. There's a better word for it. Paraphernalia. Thank you. I feel uncomfortable. My family was tortured by Nazis. I think that's disgusting. And there was a thing in the 90s where people were getting dressed up that way, literally with swastikas, and thought it was a cool fetish. I thought it was ignorant and stupid. Now they just do it in the streets of Ohio. See what you did? See what you did.
Not the streets of Ohio, Rob. You're going to get us banned.
No, it's true. That was a news story.
I know it's true. It's true, but they don't like us talking about it. Anyway, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. And, dude, I wasn't even a thought yet when that type of stuff was going down. And that had such a profound impact on the community that it's still talked about to this day.
And a lot.
I have never had a night where I've gone to the club where somebody who was active in the scene during that time hasn't in some way brought it up as a, what the fuck were people thinking?
Because the community did the right thing back then. We did say, no, that's not okay. And people went from wearing like the swastikas and kind of brought it down and wore the kind of military outfits for a while. And then people still gave shit because it's insensitive. Look, man, I'm sitting through things. I just found out that there are terms that I've been using my whole life that are very racist, and I had no fucking clue. And now I can't use them.
And that's real, though, because even at the age of 20, like, I learned that terms that we've freely said since we were children, you know, we now look at and we go, oh, why did we say that? Why was that a term being used? Why did people say those things? And that's part of growing up, and part of growing old is just learning everything, because we're constantly learning new things. But especially within this space where we are supposed to be a community where people feel welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the thing. People talk. I've heard some people talk about. We talk a lot about how the vanillification of kink. Another thing I've heard a lot about is the death of the community. Meaning, we're not seeing as many people genuinely want to be a part of this space. And it's because we have become gatekeeping. We've become very unwilling to learn and grow and change. And that's not to say we should change in a way that undermines who we are as a community. Like, that does not mean I agree with the fact that vanilla people are trying to come in and make this their own. But when we allow hateful things to continue to go on within the community, people who are genuinely curious about these things see the things that are being said, see the things that are being worn, see the types of roles, and more so the terms that are being used for certain roles being used, and then go, oh, I don't feel safe here. And then they walk away and they don't come back.
See, I think the reverse. I think the problem is we're not gatekeeping, or what I like to call it, safeguarding. I think everyone convinced us to let the gatekeeping stop, the safeguarding stop. And all these people walked in and have made people not want to come out anymore. We have covered on this channel over the last year how many huge consent hotspots. I feel like we haven't gone more than 2 months stage without talking about that.
That's true. I have to agree.
And
I have to agree. But what I mean by that, and I agree with that, when I say gatekeeping, I don't mean in regards to safeguarding. I do in fact believe that there still has to be lines of who we do and don't allow in on the basis of who is and isn't a safe person, who isn't teaching safe practice. You know, things like that. When I say gatekeeping, I mean the people who insist that we use the term slave.
Yeah.
The people who insist that contracts are okay. The people who insist that we bend to their will and use the terminology they want used, even if it makes other people uncomfortable. That's what I mean by that. People who refuse to allow there to be natural growth within the community and natural change, the kind of change that has to happen for us to exist within a modern society.
You're talking old guard. You're talking about the people who don't want to pull up the anchors and move forward.
Yeah.
And that's valid.
I didn't want to say it out loud. I'm glad you did.
I know it right away. I've been around enough to know that's exactly. And it's those people who are suffocating. So let me tell you, the average kinkster, and I talked about this, I think, with Alice over the weekend. The average kinkster wants to show up and see fellow kink people and talk about it and have a chill moment. When someone starts being creepy, and then especially when it's a community leader or it's the person hosting it and they call them out and nothing happens, they're like, fuck it, I'll go home. But when they go home now, they can find a community. There are a few people who constantly come here, and I'm sorry we're not announcing you today. We're having a great conversation, me and Sage, and I don't want to interrupt it by just reading names. I appreciate you all for showing up. But no one wants to be part of something that feels shitty. So they go home and they join communities like this. They're now being cultivated with education on the forefront. They can connect virtually with people without having to worry about all the creepy bullshit. As someone who is male presenting and identifies as a male, and I walk into a space, I'm always going to have less issues, guaranteed, than if especially I am an attractive or if at all just female in gender or female presenting. There's going to be more issues in my life entering the scene, and people think it's okay to be creepy. And why is it okay to be creepy? Because we're not kicking the creeps out. You know what the most safe environments are? When the old couples, when the couples are there. And I don't mean it disparaging by old. I mean literally when you have people who've been doing this 20 years are in the room. Because they're the ones who will be like, what the fuck are you talking about from across the room?
See, and I love that you say that, because the greatest club that I ever went to, and I'm gonna name drop a club real quick. They're amazing. I highly recommend. If you are in the Chicago area, the Rose is one of the greatest places I have ever been. It is warm. It is inviting. There's no pressure for anything. 90% of the people who went there, all kinksters, we went there to play board games together. Mm-hmm. It was almost like a family feel. People knew each other. People cared about one another. We were there to learn. We were there to grow with one another. That club was owned by a couple who were in their late 60s, who had been doing kink for over 40 years. And they had grown and cultivated that club over the course of 5 years. And it is one of the most welcoming spaces I had ever been in, because they had one rule. They had one sound rule. Was you make someone uncomfortable, you get 2 warnings, but you're not getting a third.
Good.
They didn't care. They heard their club safe word go off. It didn't matter what happened. You were the reason the safe word came out. You're out. Goodbye.
Well, I hope that wasn't when there was an issue that wasn't anyone's fault.
If it was when the safe word was only to the club safe word.
Oh, you mean Mayday?
Only to be used. If it was a 911 red alert, I need to get this person away from me.
You're talking about Mayday, usually, or if it's not Mayday there, in other clubs, it's Mayday. Mayday is my top stunt. And someone had recently said at one of my events, they showed up, they weren't vetted, they just showed up, and they tried to argue with me about Mayday, and I'm like, we don't start with Mayday, we start with Red. No, but I like Mayday better. I was like, no, the club safe words are red. We only call Mayday when it's the first one's not being listened to. And a good DM should be up at red. Hey, what's going on, Debbie? If you want to come on by, feel free. When you hear red called and you're a DM, which is a dungeon monitor, not a dungeon master, I swear to God, I'll drown kittens if anyone calls it a dungeon monitor. If I say, I'll make you all watch.
I can't take you seriously sometimes, Rob. I can't.
So, yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
We want to do that. You're right. The older couple, even just the couples, when I'm in a room full of couples, there's a safety in there. As opposed to like the 10 slimiest guys in the community now somehow running events. And we had this, it doesn't even, and by guys, I'm not putting gender. Understand, I think of guys as a gender neutral term these days along with dude. So by guys, I mean just a group of people.
Just people.
Because predators be any shape, size, or color, and any dingling parts. It don't matter. Predatory behavior happens all around. I'll tell you the truth. I made a video about being groping. Because as a person who goes to the gym and has pretty big arms, I get groped a lot in the community spaces. And I just have to take it because no one's going to take me serious. Even in that video, I wasn't taken serious. So I said, when men don't like to be groped, so just keep that in mind. And the next words out of my mouth was, and just so everyone's clear, no one likes to be groped. Tell me, Sage, why someone had to walk in and literally say, well, it goes both ways. Yeah, fuck, I just said that.
People looking for an argument.
And I was like, did you not listen to the second fucking sentence? Jesus Christ. And I just, yes, keep your hands to yourself. Basic shit. Like, this is kindergarten shit. I say it all the time when we get on these conversations and these lives. I'm like, it's really easy for this community to be chill and cool. It's that we have to stop for the fucking consent violators because we stopped gatekeeping or safeguarding, which I like better, the right way. Because these people come out, they put on events, and they get other people to support them and make this group. And what they wind up doing a lot of times is attracting young women, especially, but younger generation people to their events. And that attracts all the people. And then they start literally getting rid of the people they don't want. Oh, I don't want this person. They're too smart. I don't want this person. They make too many questions. And they gatekeep in a very dangerous way. So their predatory behaviors can go. I'm telling you, the white van parties that FetLife allows now is one of the worst things ever to happen to FetLife. And I've already heard how 2 of these white van parties have affected the community south of me. And there's roofies being used at them now.
Whoa, let's slow down. White van parties? I haven't been on FetLife in like months, dude.
We talked about this. Remember when we had that big talk about FetLife? You were there that night. Where now FetLife, FetLife does, you aren't.
Yeah.
Where FetLife now allows you to have events that no one can see unless you're invited to. That's a white van party. I don't know if you heard that part. I didn't know
that was the term that was used for it.
Well,
we discussed that feature.
Yeah, we just call it the white van because it's the best one. Okay. Yeah, it literally, it's creepy as fuck.
I remember that conversation now, and that's the thing, and that is the thing. And I say this as somebody, I myself, I don't necessarily identify as a woman. I do identify very much within the feminine, and I am femme presenting. And on top of that, for context, I am a fab. So, assigned female at birth, for anyone who doesn't know what that acronym is. So, being in that kind of, box of people, all right, this community gets very dangerous very quickly because of things like that. Because we have people who look at people who present or look like me, and especially because I'm younger, I'm only 20 years old, who look at me and go, oh, they're young, they must not have much experience, and think that that means they got a golden ticket to manipulate and do what they want. Now, what's funny is being the 20-year-old that has a lot of research behind their back and a lot of experience within the community, at least as far as a lot of experience can go for someone my age. And seeing the color leave someone's face when they realize that they can't just say whatever and I'll go with it, or anyone else that's in my same situation, they can't just say whatever to them and they'll just assume they go with it. But it is insane seeing the number of people who try. And these are people that you report them on FetLife, you report them somewhere else, you bring it up to a quote-unquote community leader, and nothing happens because everyone's afraid to tell someone that they're not welcome in a space after they've chosen to be predatory.
Yep. And we're joined by Debbie. And by the way, I learned over the weekend, I do the quote-unquote community leader here, but when I'm in person, I literally do the air quotes, and someone wasn't watching me. I was like, if you don't like bringing up community leaders, why do you bring them up? And I'm like, well, I do the air quotes. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm doing this every time I say it. And they were like, oh, I wasn't watching you. So I have to learn to say even in person at live events, quote unquote community leaders. Debbie, what's going on? Alice, I see in the background. Alice, if you want to jump on, feel free.
Is Alice hopping on? I haven't seen her around for a hot second.
Well, we've been on all the different channels because of all the bullshit lately. But yeah, Alice has been around. I haven't seen you in a lately. You kind of been in.
I was gonna say, Debbie, you've been MIA.
Yeah.
Yeah, workload has kind of kicked into high gear. I got put on a new project, so and I didn't realize like the summertime's almost over as well. So
my kid
like
goes.
Crazy as time goes by.
Dude, all the back to school stuff is up at the stores, and I'm having flashbacks.
My kid.
Yeah.
What's up, Rob?
I was gonna say my kid starts on Monday.
Oh my God. No, because I walked into Walmart like a month ago and saw all their back to school signs, like the cheesy back to school signs. And I've only been out of high school for now 2 years. So I look up, I see all that, and I immediately have flashbacks. So I'm like, oh God, I need to leave.
I get that. So what's going on, Debbie?
Just chill. No, just coming by. I saw you were on live. I actually haven't been on TikTok for a hot second. So doing like some catching up over here.
Well, we're gonna try to do, just so you both know, I have you not this Sunday, but potentially soon. I realize that the following Sunday I might be busy, but we're gonna try to do that roundtable very soon. I just got to get with some people and figure it out. But I do want to ask you both while we're talking about things. So this is something that's come up to me, and I saw this myself. There's a group that usually does under 30, like a TNG group, right? So they've been doing it very publicly for a while now. And I remember, and this is just how much I pick up on things. I remember there was a conversation about people doing things in the community. And this person said, well, someone told me to do this. And that was a red flag to me. And I couldn't unhear it, or unread it. So I've always kind of just taken an approach of just watching. And they recently posted a party. And this is a giant red flag, ladies and gentlemen. And this was supposed to be one of those white van parties, clearly, because it suddenly disappeared. They put, oh, well, we're going to have an event now at this dude's house. The dude's 46, by the way. And now they're going to allow 40-year-olds. Tell me you're grooming for an older generation without telling me you're grooming for an older generation.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's grooming right there.
Yeah, we've had some kind of shakeups in our community. The dungeon I used to go to a lot got shut down. And so, like, people are trying to figure out different places where to go, that kind of stuff. So we've had, like, different members in the community try to do some more private parties, I guess, where they kind of switched things around last minute that made a lot of people uncomfortable. So there's been a whole conversation.
Private parties, I don't have an issue with. That has been around forever. That has been around as long as I have.
But this isn't like a private party like it where you're only inviting a set amount of people. They're like trying to do it as a substitute of like public play spaces.
But even that's been done for like decades because you need someone's phone number.
If you're changing locations, like you're trying to get money up from people up front.
Oh.
Locations and stuff like that, like it's just kind of sus.
No, that's problematic. I thought you meant, to be clear, we don't mean private events where people are inviting people to their house. If you have someone's phone number and you're creating a party at your house, there's nothing wrong with that because you have someone's number. You are literally in contact with these people and inviting people, and a couple of people might be able to invite friends. That's happened. I've been invited to so many loft parties in New York City, and I've attended a few. They're interesting. My son might have been conceived at one.
Yeah, no, this is a little different. This is where they're trying to get, because people are displaced right now. And it's like, you're not really, you got to vet people, but you also got to vet locations and stuff like that, too. If you're going in, like, a neighborhood and it's, like, very family-oriented, probably not the best location to do a bigger party, so to speak. It's just my opinion. It just draws attention. And right now, I think it's just like people just need to kind of keep an extra set of eyes around as well.
That's fair. Private parties, though, are never going to go away. And that's not what we're talking about, the white van party. The huge difference, and I know you're like, but Rob, it sounds like that's what you're talking about. No, the white van party is someone literally, so this is the deal. And this sucks because it's going to teach predators, but I need you all to know how this is working. So Jimmy decides to make, hey, everyone come here. We're doing free ice cream at this place. It just opened. Come hang out with us. So you RSVP to it. Then Jimmy the month later goes, hey, everybody, let's play board games at this cool coffee shop. So everyone RSVPs. And then Jimmy makes another event the following month. And this time Jimmy somehow gets to be part of this national adopt day with all the dogs and the kittens. So you all meet at the park for this. And then Jimmy makes a private event, and everyone who RSVP'd to those 3 other events, and if you noticed all the things I listed, they would probably attract younger people. He suddenly sends invites to a hidden party, and most people don't realize it's hidden. And why don't they realize it's hidden? Because when they were invited, they got to see it. They never saw it wasn't shown to everybody else. So now they think this is a publicly advertised party, and it winds up at some dude's house, and bad shit ensues.
Yeah, I think we're talking about, I'm just giving an example.
Yeah, you're talking about,
in my community.
You're talking bait and
I
switch.
haven't seen any of that happen, like, remotely close to us at all, but that is kind of scary. You said you've been seeing that pop up where you're close to where you're at?
Oh, because people tell me things that they hear. People tell me about the invites, and it's not a greatly held secret because people get instantly offended. There's nothing worse, and I'm sure Sage will back me on this, than showing up to a sausage party. What's a sausage party, you might ask? It's when 2 or 3 women are invited to 25 men hanging around waiting for the women to show up. It is like the most uncomfortable thing. It is something, and there have been events like that. It's like if you've ever been on FetLife recently and seen the come to this house and do something as a group, but it started off to what you were saying with the bait and switch, which is what I thought you were talking about. And suddenly it starts off as like, let's hang out and play board games. And the day before it becomes come and do this as a group. Sage, you know what I'm talking about, right?
No, absolutely. I know what you're talking about. And there's nothing more frightening than that, because the people that end up getting got by those types of things are people like me who aren't on FetLife particularly often.
Yeah.
So they're not going to see if that RSVP that they agreed to has suddenly changed.
Yep.
And it's happened. It hasn't happened to me personally, luckily. But then again, I don't get out much. But it has happened to people I know.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're now, luckily, a lot of my friends that I have are on FetLife consistently, and they catch it, but they go, ooh, that could have ended terribly. And I'm like, yeah, it really could have.
And it always amazes me how much a community is like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened in our community. And you're like, motherfucker, a month ago I warned you about this.
Yeah.
Fuck, you didn't know. The fuck you didn't know. Shut the fuck up. But when you start...
And even then, even when they try to claim we didn't know, they act as if this hasn't been happening forever. Like, even if it is, like, yeah, let's say there is one, like, really big incident where something takes place, they fawn and lose their shit as if these same things haven't been happening within the community for decades. Because this practice with the bait and switch on FetLife is no different. That is little Craigslist ads that would get put out
nervous because then you don't know where it is that you're going to. It doesn't give you, like when we're talking about, informed consent and all of that, like I like to know like where you going first, like see what's around, like are you walking in, not that I'm saying people set you up, but you also kind of want to make sure that you're okay, because the last thing you want is that trouble happens and then you're in an area that you're not familiar with, or that you're not familiar with what the situation is, and next thing you know, you're having to answer for things that have happened. I just the inconsistency is like the part that's kind of like troublesome for sure.
Debbie, I'll say what you won't say. They setting you up, like flat out. There are people who are setting you up,
and that's kind of like what it was feel like, because it's kind of, and this is kind of like when where community can be good, like if people actually use critical thinking and actually like start recognizing certain things that they can speak up. So luckily, like it's kind of centered down to like a certain core of people that have been identified that are kind of like doing this. So it's kind of at least like when you're putting like like being able to identify who it is, then you're gonna kind of look a little extra when those invites are going out. But I don't know, it just makes me so nervous.
and we have built this community to literally protect predators. You call out someone for their behavior. Oh my God, you're outing them. Oh my God, you can't say that. How dare you tag them in for their own behaviors and what they're doing? The minute someone says that someone violated their consent, innocent until proven guilty. So should I call the cops?
Like a double standard.
No, we don't call the cops. We let the community take care of it. But you just told me the community won't take care of it, and it's innocent until proven guilty. And my own thing, will you talk to the witnesses? Oh no, we won't talk to the witnesses. So what are you going to do? We're going to hope you go away and you get pissed off and you don't be a problem anymore is usually it. Let me tell you, the community is so fucking scary these days. And the reason it is scary is they have built it so it only affects them. When the person who violated my consent and someone decided to try to put me at ends with them, they all thought I'd go away. Oh boy, did they learn the opposite. And what really happened is I kept telling people, you're only going to care when it's the hot girl. I was like, you all think I'm fucked up, but it's going to be when the hot girl, the really good, the hot looking girl that everyone's going to give a shit about, because you're all trying to sleep with her or be like her. Sure enough, what brought down that person? The hot girl who came out and didn't even say the name, but everyone knew who it was. And that was the end of that person. And now that person's apparently throwing white van parties because they had enough subscribers to their channel that there's still people who have not wised up. And there's always 30 people who are like, well, if I didn't see it, if it didn't happen right in front of me, I guess it's not a problem. And 29 of those 30 people are dudes when it's the woman who's the consent violator. Because why? Because they all think that they want something from them. Because some people don't think it's a big deal when they're touched because they want to be touched. But let me tell you, if a dude like me went by there and grabbed their junk, they'd suddenly learn a lesson. But if I do that, I'm the bad guy.
I think you raised a good point. Like, when you said, I saw it was in one of the videos, and I think you were kind of bringing it up again just, a few minutes ago, where you being like very masculine presenting, bigger in the sense, like in that masculine sense where you take up and you hold that space, you got the deep voice and everything. And that you were saying that like you've had people like come and touch your arms, like they automatically think that's like that there's an invitation there that that's unwanted touching is wanted touching. And
I've literally had my sexuality called into question because I didn't like it. I was told I'm making a big deal out of nothing. I've literally been told, well, it's happened to women for decades, so it's okay. So, and I would turn around and be like, so can I go touch women without consent? No, of course not. That's horrible. So what? I'm the revenge? I literally had. There is a person who I looked up to, was one of my managers, and was a woman, and I was literally getting sexually harassed at work. This person would come up and grab my ass. This person, I was in my early 20s, would grab my ass. This person were in their 40s. Would grab my ass. And I told my manager, and my manager's like, well, now you know how women feel. And I'm like, but why would I be punished for this? And that brought a big problem between me and her moving forward because she didn't protect me. All I wanted was for her to say, "That's not funny. Stop touching me." Because
there's a word that's called that. It's like you recognizing that, or you're acknowledging that somebody is dealing with an issue or has been violated, but then you put in but it's been happening or whatever, like the case of, like, there's a word for it.
Blind eye.
I mean, there's several terms that could be used to describe that. The first one that comes to mind for me is victim blaming, which is it's happened so many times before. Maybe not necessarily the bad victim, but just some people.
Blaming, but like victim shaming, like, oh, you're complaining about that, but it's been so much worse for other people.
So, but the other term that I thought about, and this isn't even necessarily like a term that is just used for that particular situation, but I'm about to tell you my favorite phrase that my great-grandmother taught me growing up: the difference between ignorancy and ignorancy. To be ignorant means that you have not learned and have consciously chosen to not learn. To be ignorant means you have learned and you just don't care. In a lot of instances where it comes to somebody's consent being violated, we see an awful lot of ignorancy. We all have the common sense to know that it is not okay that somebody's consent was violated. You don't necessarily have to take a course to understand that people don't want to have certain things done to them, and it is nobody's right to do those things to that person without their express consent. And what we end up with is ignorant people who have that common sense and go, well, it's not affecting me, so why should I care?
Yeah. And in addition to that, Sage, because I think you raised I think that's a good old wise saying right there. But also is that they also create false narratives that people then blindly follow as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have a point that I want to make very, very quickly, and it's to piggyback a little bit off of what Rob had said earlier about people being mad when we take the time. And here's the thing, I'm not afraid to say it. I will out a predator. I don't care. At that point, you violated somebody's body, I'm going to violate your privacy. I don't care. You violated somebody else, now it's your turn. That is the consequence of your choice. For anyone who does not know much about me, I work in childcare. My entire job is teaching children the concept of consequences. If a 3-year-old can understand that the consequence of putting their hands on somebody is that they might get hit back, you as an adult can understand that the consequence of acting the way that you choose to act might just be that people find out the way you act. That's how it goes. That's life. That's common sense.
I just want to quickly jump in. We're running out of time, but I wanted to read Thea's comment because it's a good one. I left 10 years ago because of harassment and only just recently came back with extra caution. And to the comment that I was trying to make, I think the term is hypocrisy. And yes, it's hypocrisy. It is the you can't do that. And we're seeing a lot of that right now. And I feel like hypocrisy is almost a disease in humanity right now. Because, well, I get to do this because the lesson is we should never do that. It is when the victim becomes the predator. And we need to stop being predatory. We need to walk away. And I said it the other day to a friend as a joke, and I think I said it once with Alice. Why am I stopping at red lights anymore? If this is what everyone is doing right now, why do I have to stop at red lights? Because no one is listening to the social contract. Everyone's in business for themselves, and that's got to stop really soon before other people start wondering why they're stopping at the red lights.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. And I think, like right now, without getting too like political and stuff like that, there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot that's working in the backgrounds. I think that, a lot of people are on edge with a lot of things. Like just bringing it back to the community, like I was talking with my play partner, and we just said, like, as of right now, like we don't feel comfortable like going to like any like private parties, like public events, like until things just kind of calm down a little bit. It's like the landing pad right now is just kind of a little wishy-washy. It's just not worth to take the risk, even if it's like, you're trying to be active in the lifestyle. It's just, unfortunately, I'm not in a dynamic where I can live it at home. you know, I have to be extra cautious when I am factoring this in. When we're talking about risk factors, that should be part of negotiation as well.
This has been a surprisingly great conversation. I thank you both for being part of it. Unfortunately, I have a stop to make, so I do have to eject myself. And I will say this, I feel unsafe right now. In so many ways in my life, I feel unsafe. I feel unsafe for my children. I feel unsafe for my community. And that's why we're going to continue to come to you live, continue to try to talk about this, continue to spread the word of consent. And with that in mind, do either one of you have anything to say before I close out the show?
The only thing I have to say before I walk away is that we as a community have to acknowledge that we have to have the uncomfortable conversations. We have to. I'm going to sound angry right now, and honestly, it's because I am. We need to stop allowing this to happen. It has become a problem because we have become so passive in the abuse and mistreatment of people within our community, and it is leaching into the new individuals who are trying to learn, who are trying to grow. I say this as somebody who's a part of that group of people. So many people my age have either A, left the community because they are scared, or B, are becoming the exact predators we are trying to protect ourselves from. And the longer we allow this to stand, the worse it will get. Well
said, well said. And I'm not trying to be facetious with this. I just know it's the polite way, I think.
No, I took it as a compliment. Thank you. Yeah. No, I saw that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Anything for us, Debbie?
No, I always love what Sage says, what you have to say, you know. I think it's just, like Sage says, it's like the uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah, and this next comment comes from Thea. This is not Rob's comment. I'm reading from a screen. I cannot stress this enough when I read this. It is not my comment. Thea says, just like we want men to call out other men, women need to call out other women. That was not me. I cannot stress that enough. Do not cancel me. Though I agree with the comment, so fuck you. All right, so here we go. BDSM is not inherently sexual. No, it is not. It is mental. We communicate, negotiate, conversate about play profiles, safety protocols, risk profiles, medical history, aftercare needs, and we use the new acronym to find out the needs, expectations, and wants of our play scenes and or our dynamics. And once you install into your dynamic that awesome garage time to fine-tune your dynamic in play, you'll be able to ask for consent using diaper. Did I ask permission extensively with representation of your partners so you can instill not just the trust needed, but you have earned the submission and dominance that will fulfill you both. I thank you all for joining us this evening. This was an amazing up. I love it. Let's go. See you at the next one tomorrow, 6:30, 6:45, depending on how TikTok's treating us. We're having that big event, Safety in the Community. Boy, do I have something to think about tonight. And I got some books to read until then. I plan to be done with that book by tomorrow night because I think it'll help me be better at what I do with educating. Thank you both for being the guests. I gotta go. See you all later. Same thing to you, YouTube. I'm out.